Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to East Carolina University. We're here in Gateway Hall up on College Hill, and we're getting ready for what we know will be a great drop-off / move-in experience, and we're going to go through all that for you. My name is Chris Stansberry in the Division of Student Affairs. We've got our masks on. Bill McCartney here, Aaron Lucier here with Campus Living. Just a minute, I'm going to step away. They'll maintain their social distancing, be able to take their masks off, so it'll be a little easier for you to hear them and for us to carry on this conversation. We're going to power through this, and we're going to make this new level of normal work for us and get the best experience possible for everybody that's getting ready to move in and drop off. Drop off starting in just 2 days. So I'm going to slide out of the way. Bill and Aaron will be able to take their masks off now, and so we'll be able to have more of a normal type conversation. So Bill, first of all, for those that may not be familiar with you, how long have you been in this business, and how hard has it been for your team to deal with this new normal?
Oh, sure, make me sound old. I've been in the business far too long, and we'll leave it at that, but I've been here at ECU now starting my 11th year. And this is going to be one of our most unusual experiences from a housing perspective. We've been back in the office since June 22nd, having to rethink the move-in experience, trying to keep it such that families can enjoy this moment, have a very typical kind of helping their child set up their room and be a part of that experience for the entire family, while at the same time applying social distancing principles so that everyone can stay safe.
Aaron, this is not your first rodeo, but is definitely a different type of rodeo in your time that you've been doing this as you get ready. Talk a little bit about that, and then we'll have some specific questions about drop-off.
Well, I guess landmarks are always kind of special. This will be my 26th opening at ECU, and it will probably go down one of the most memorable ones. But the good thing about it is, as Bill stated, we've had some time to plan, even with the accelerated fall calendar, in addition to just the oddest move-in that we've ever had a plan. We have really done a good job, I think, building a schedule that still allows some normalcy in terms of families coming to do a drop-off and be able to have that moment of together. Here we are, we're in the room, we're enjoying the moment, and and then strangely enough, going home, coming back several days later or a week or so later.
So let's talk about that. Typically, most people are familiar with the move-in process. It's you move all your stuff in, and that's your new home, and then the semester starts and we get going. This year, they're going to hear two terms. They're going to hear drop-off and move-in. Drop-off is what's coming up the next 2 weeks. Talk about what that means.
Actually, before that, Chris, they're doing 3 terms: drop off, move in, and return to campus.
Yeah.
And so if you're a drop off person, the next thing you need to worry about is hearing about return to campus. If you're not coming for drop off, then move in is your topic of interest.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Go ahead, Aaron. Drop
So
off.
drop-off is going to start, first thing for most students, it's already started in the fact that they signed up for a window and opportunity. Tomorrow, they're going to get an email or text reminding them of that. They got a reminder today that it's coming up, but tomorrow they're going to get a health and safety check reminder saying everybody from who you're inviting to bring to campus should answer this sort of common COVID questions that you're all familiar with and check in with each other and say, everybody feeling all right? Good. Then you can bring them to campus. If somebody's not feeling well, that's the person you want to leave home. But you arrive, you get ready to arrive. One of the things that we did do on the sign up, it gives you a random address. It gives the university's address on that. Do not use that as your Google point. Use your residence hall. All the residence halls show up on Google. So if you're looking for a map, how to get here, Google the building and use that map. Don't use the reminder map from the sign up app, please, because that's one location for the whole school. So that's going to be one of the steps. Making sure everybody's got masks. That's going to be required throughout this process. It's going to be required for moving. It's going to be required to return to campus. It's going to be required for this fall. So find some cute ones, find some fun ones, find enough that you can launder and clean and have a rotation of them, because one mask all the time isn't going to be good, healthy for you either. So you want to make sure that you have several. But for that day, certainly on your drop-off day, you want to have that. Plan, load up, load up your containers, load up your bins, load up those items. If you can bring your own cart, that's preferable. We'll have some around, but we never seem to have enough, even with the smaller drop-off. Bringing your own cart means that you know you have that available to yourself. One of those wagons, a cart, a hand cart, anything like that. If it fits in your vehicle, that's very welcome. Your first step when you arrive here is going to be stopping by one of two locations. If you're on Central or West End, you're going to be stopping by West End Dining Hall, and that's where you're going to get your key and fob. You're going to not even really use those. You're going to use your key that day, but you're not going to use your fob that day. The building will be open for you. And you're going to hold on to those. So you're not returning those. You're not bringing those back. You're bringing them back to campus when you do your return to campus, so you need to keep an eye on them. They cost $150 to replace. Definitely want to keep an eye on them. So the family, make sure your student has got them, putting somewhere safe, keeping an eye out for them, and then bringing them back. Because one of the things you definitely don't want to do is get back to campus and be like, don't have my key, don't have my fob.
Let me interrupt real quick, Bill. One of the things, Aaron's talked a lot about communication. Parents that are listening to this may be going, I haven't heard that. I haven't heard that. They need to probably be having some conversations with their student about their ECU account.
All of our communications go to the ECU email address that your student has been assigned. And so hopefully they've been paying attention to that and sharing that with you. But if not, you want to ask them about that so that you can see the information that we've been sending out. I also want to reinforce something that Aaron said. When you come back, when you come to campus, I do want you to know it's 58 degrees outside, sunny and cool today, so you might want to bring a light sweater with you. Please read the sarcasm into that statement. It is beastly hot here. You want to dress really comfortably. Fashion is not important during drop-off. Your comfort is. Loose clothing, cool clothing, tennis shoes preferable because they're going to be more comfortable as you walk and do things. And make sure that when you pack your vehicle, smaller containers are better than larger containers. Clothes go great into actually garbage bags and things like that, so you can tuck them into nooks and crannies in your car. We're going to ask you to be recycling the cardboard that you bring to campus, and there'll be places to drop that off near your hall, and that'll be important. But you want to pack in small, light, easy to carry, easy to move things, and you also want to be able to get as much as you can into your vehicle, obviously, because that's what we all do nowadays. We fit as much as we can into our rooms.
So, Aaron, going back to a little bit about that day, some folks want to say, who can I bring to help during the drop-offs? And there's a difference between the drop-off, who can you bring, and when they actually come back to campus that right before classes start.
Yeah. And the drop-off, we intended this to be the opportunity to do the bring the brother and sister, have the moment, check out the room, because the population in the building that day is going to be about 15, maybe 20 families maximum in an entire building in any one window. And that's going to be much more manageable for social distancing and keeping out of each other's way. During our move-in days, it's going to be a lot more hectic and a little bit more intense, and therefore we're asking those folks to limit themselves to 2 family members from the same household. So if you don't live with the 2 family members are coming, make sure those 2 family members are coming from the same household. So we're not adding additional households into our community here. And then during the return to campus, we're asking that no guests come into the building. Namely, your family is leaving you off, either putting you in your car in Durham and you're driving here yourself as a student, or they're dropping you off here in front of the building, giving you a good luck high five and sending you on your merry way, because we don't want all those folks into your building during that return to campus period.
Once we open the residence halls for good, which will be on the 5th of August, as we start move-in, no outsiders will be allowed to visit in the residence halls. That's no family members, no students who live off campus, no friends from another college. And so the people who live in our buildings are the only visitors who will be allowed in our buildings. And so that drop-off as you return to campus falls under those guidelines. And so your student is the only one who will carry anything up to their room as they come back during the drop-off period.
For the return to campus
For
period.
for the return to campus period. Where I was going with drop-off is that's why it's important that you bring as much with you now as possible. Set up your room the way you want it. Bring all of those items. The only things the students should come back with during the return to campus is what little bit of clothes and probably their laptop that they've kept home with them, because no one can live without their laptop today. So bring it all, get it all in, get it all set up during that 3-hour window. I would also want to say that 3 hours doesn't mean that you need to be here right at 9 o'clock. That means you have 3 hours in which to do this. If everyone shows up at 9 o'clock, there will be lines, there will be more inconvenience, we'll have you social distancing in those lines. And so show up, some will hopefully show up at 9 and 9:30 and 10 o'clock and even 10:15. And if so, your process will go much smoother than if everyone decides they want to show up right at the beginning of their 3-hour window.
So a couple of things with that. One, when they go to pick up their key from the NSO, it's going to be the student.
Yep.
So family will not be going with them. That's one of the things.
Just the student.
Just the student with a photo ID.
Yep.
They need to bring with them. That's important. I also failed to mention this at the beginning, but if you're watching the live edition of this program, feel free to put questions and comments in the box on Facebook. We've got folks that are watching that, and we can ask Bill and Aaron while we're doing the live edition. If you're watching the archived edition of this, go ahead and put your questions and comments in anyway. Parent Family Program staff are going to be monitoring, and we'll be able to respond as best we can. One question we did get, Aaron and Bill, was once I do a drop-off for my son, who comes to ECU in the fall, does his drop-off Friday. Will the air conditioners remain on so that the stuff in my room does not get to 1,000 degrees like it is outside?
Yeah, we'd ask that you don't set it to super cold or anything like that, because most of the controls are individual to the student room. Leave it at the medium temperature that it's at, but you can totally leave it running, and we're absolutely fine with that. One of the things that you actually brought up, though, is really important about that too, is once again, when you go to the NSO, you're not going to go directly to the NSO location, but you're going to be right next door to it. So here, the Neighborhood Service Office on College Hill is in Gateway Hall, and right across from that is the sounds room. You'll see signs that says, check in here, because we're actually going to use the larger sounds rooms right next to the NSO. And the NSO at West End is in West End Dining, which we're going to use the larger lobby, because we're doing the social distancing. But the important thing is the student should be the only one coming. Bring that photo ID, be ready with your information. Know your banner ID number. Because a lot of you, most of you have not received your ID card yet, so bring your banner ID number with you, know what that number is, put a slip of paper in your wallet, whatever you need to do. But then also bring your driver's license or your state issued ID well with you so we can confirm it's you. That's really important. And then you can take your whole family to there. And as Bill mentioned, if you arrive at 10:15, we are not time clocking you for the 3 hours. Now, we recommend that you try to focus on that and get the work done. So get here, dig in, try to get it done, because we do need that parking space for later on. But if you creep into 3 hours and 15 minutes, we're not policing that. But think about that, because we need to keep that space for the next group of people. So we really are trying to get you out. So if you arrive a few minutes later, so you avoid the line, know that you can have a little bit of space on the other end, and we'll work with you. But that last time at 6 o'clock, when we were shutting this process down, we are going to start winding down the day. So that last time slot, you do want to try to target to be finished around 6 o'clock.
And one of the things, a lot of times during moving, it is hot outside, you forget something. If your student happens to forget what their banner ID is, don't freak out. Don't have the argument in the parking lot. Very simply, if you go to Pirate Port for the ECU account, up in the top right corner on Pirate Port, you can click log in, and your banner ID is right there. So that's one way to find it for sure. So don't freak out.
And don't stress about it. Try not to stress about anything.
Yeah.
You know, largely this is going to be a process we're going to be learning. And so if there's some problems along the way, we're going to take that feedback and try to work with it. But if there's something going on that day, just ask the question, and we can work with you on that. If something's not working and you're right in the room, we'll have time to fix it before you come back. If the air conditioner's a little warm and whatever else, let us know. We'll take care of it. But don't let that get to you, because we know that things are going to happen. And that sliding it off and enjoying the rest of the day is so important. If you hold on to, well, we didn't get off on time, or we got here a little late and there was a little bit of a line. If you let that overshadow the day, and I can tell you after 25 years of moving, it will overshadow the day, and you don't want that.
Yeah. Bill, give me some ideas on what parents should be talking to their student about before they get here for drop-off. What are some things that maybe, some good conversations? Have you thought about this? Or things we need to make sure we've got? What are some good conversations?
Yeah, one of the conversations is to ask them, have they reached out and talked to their roommate? And have they had the conversation with their roommate about how they're going to live together and how they're going to go through this experience? And this year is going to be a unique experience. It's not what anybody would have thought their freshman year would be like 18 months ago. And so encourage your student to make sure they're having the conversations, because you get a good roommate by being a good roommate. And so you want to help your student and coach them to be a good roommate from day one. And that's one thing. The second is you really need to have some serious conversations with your student if they're coming as an incoming freshman. They've lost so much this year. They've lost the end of their senior year in high school and prom and potentially their spring sports if they were involved in that and other activities. And they're going to feel this pent-up need to be a student. One of the things that is crucial is that the university is putting in place lots of things to mitigate risk and to moderate that possibility of risk for students. The wearing of masks, the extra cleaning, the sanitation stations that we're putting in places so students can control their own level of cleanliness in the dining halls and in the bathrooms if they're not comfortable as they come into those. But remember this, we will only stay in school this year if your students behave responsibly. It is going to be their actions and their choices every day about whether they place themselves at risk and place others at risk that will make us as a university stay open or cause us to be closed.
And that experience is going to be impacted across the board too. So your roommate, the people that live on your hall, everybody's impacted by that. And so I think even beyond the students, to Bill's point, faculty and staff have the same responsibility. As you saw, maybe we could have gotten away without wearing masks today just for this program, but we didn't because it's very important. And so you're going to see us trying to be the same model that we want your students to follow. And I think that safetyness is absolutely imperative. I want to switch off a little bit.
Actually,
Oh, go ahead, Aaron.
one more thing on roommates is you're the first person doing the drop off, and you've already got your roommate's contact. If you make any big decisions about the furniture, and maybe some of the decisions you even made don't work out, text in the roommate, get on a FaceTime or a Skype or whatever else. Get the other roommate involved, and if you're making any big decision. Now we're putting out some things today and tomorrow, and it might be a little last minute, but once again, the planning time was pretty crunched, of some general recommendations. I'm going to give you a few of those today. Some of the creative ideas about how to handle this for COVID in a room. Your room setups right now are pretty much how they always are. They're kind of the historic setup of the rooms. The two beds are, you walk in and generally there's a bed on the right side and a bed on the left side, or some variant in most of our buildings. Some of the things you want to think about that is maybe shifting some of that furniture in the room, that making sure that students aren't facing each other when they're sleeping. That even if it's as simple as student A has got their head against the wall headboard, and then student B is against the other headboard that's in the middle of the room. So just so your breathing patterns aren't right on top of each other. Also, you want to make sure that if you have a window unit, which a good bit of our buildings do, that you some of the window units are on the lower part of the window, namely they can blow on a student when they're sleeping. You would probably want to make sure that that is the student that's sleeping on the other end of their bed, so that air circulation isn't crossing one student and getting to the other student's space. Now, you're two students and they're in a room. There is going to be that concern that you've got to partner up and try to be safe for each other. But we also want to make sure that the room setup isn't making that any more complicated as well. So you can make choices about where the beds are and how that furniture is. Most of the furniture in the room is movable. Go ahead and move it. But if you're doing that, talk to your roommate and say, hey, we've decided to go this way. Would you consider going that way? Or we're going to bunk the beds. Are you going to be okay with being on the upper bunk? Because if they arrive after you and they're looking at like, well, you didn't even give me a choice about the bed, that's not a great start.
Yeah.
So we want to have those conversations and bring the other person in on that.
Yeah, and if you're going to do a loft, if you're going to, what other type things? A lot of people are bringing like a gaming system, or do you have TVs and those types of things are also things to have conversations about.
Yeah, this is the year you probably don't want to share kitchen implements, but everything else is pretty shareable as long as you're wiping it off and you're being careful. I mean, let's face it, you don't need two 40-inch televisions in a room. And I'm saying that's a small version. I've seen them try to put two 50-some inch TVs in a room, and it really gets a bit crazy.
Yeah. So one of the things is we're sitting up here on the bridge at Gateway, and I can look down College Hill. Let's talk a little bit about some traffic and how you want to navigate for maybe people not familiar. So the bottom of College Hill's got construction, and there's other parts of Greenville that have a little bit of construction. Let's talk a little bit about for those that are on the hill.
If you're moving up to the hill, you'll want to access the hill by coming from 14th Street at the top of the hill, because right now there is construction going on a new steam line running down the road, and so there is not access to come to the top of the hill off of 10th Street, which is one of the main ways that you might normally do that. And it would be one of the main ways you probably would find your GPS telling you to do that. And so you'll want to access the hill from the top, which is by the football stadium, and you'll be able to come into the parking lots up near the top and access all the residence halls much easier. The city of Greenville has one of its major roads under construction, Reed Circle around the downtown area. By and large, you'll be able to bypass that if you come in off of the highway and come right across the bridge onto 10th Street. And so hopefully you won't get caught up in that, but you should be able to easily reroute yourself if you are coming in from a different direction around that level of construction.
Absolutely. So one of the, what are some of the questions maybe Bill and Aaron that you've gotten that might be something somebody watching hadn't thought of yet, but would be a good thing that you felt?
Well, one of the things, speaking of Greenville at large, is we will not have food service on these drop-off days. So bring some, maybe as you're getting into town, stop at a convenience store, pick up some chilled bottled water if you want. We will have some water stations, but if you want some all their cold sodas and whatever else, make sure you maybe grab those before you arrive on campus. If you arrive at 11 and you're not doing noon, it's a good time to grab lunch. Greenville's restaurants are largely open and are seating at the half capacity, but get some drive-through and grab a spot and do a little tour around town even.
Yeah. Or there are numerous picnic tables outside around the residence hall. So if you arrive early and at 11 o'clock and you have a 12 o'clock check-in, you can come onto campus and find a picnic table and sit and eat outside on campus, which is easy. Aaron said there will be some water. There will be tents set up in each of the neighborhoods. They should be readily identifiable where there will be water available. And actually, given our heat, staying hydrated is going to be really important.
Yeah.
Another aspect is that if you've rented a loft, and lofts are optional for people to rent, those are being installed right now and will be in place in student rooms when you arrive. And so you should be able to then set up if you've rented a loft, you'll know right away where your bed is in the room because it will be already set for you.
But if you make the decision now in future to do a loft, they will be dropped into your room, but they will not be installed. Because we don't want people dwelling in the room. So they're going to do drop-offs on the right before move-in of some additional lofts. So if you get to your room and you look at the jigsaw puzzle or the Lego set that the room can be and go, we need a little bit more space in order loft. Getting that loft installed and namely set up won't be that. But the lofts are installable without tools and with just a little bit of help. And if the loft's in the wrong place when you get here, even for drop-off, if you got a few people with you, it is adjustable, and the bed's adjustable without tools, with a little creativity and a little help.
Yeah.
And that's pretty easily done.
And as the parent of somebody who missed the link how to order the loft and didn't get that link till today, and found out that they will be delivered on or about August 3rd, so it'd be after the drop-off period. But as we look, there's an assembly video, like you said, it's about 2 minutes long.
Yeah.
It could not be any simpler. But it's going to be on the student and probably the roommate to help kind of put it together.
Yeah.
But it's a pretty simple process.
It is, and it really is doable too. I've actually done it solo before. Don't recommend, but I've done it solo before, but do not recommend that.
Yeah, but keep in mind for the ones coming back to return, you're not going to have parents or anybody with you to be able to help set that up.
Now, the other comment, it's not so much a drop-off move-in question, but we're getting questions about how the meal plan will work this year. And that is important. And one of the things that, as you're having a conversation with your child and with the student that you're sending us, is to explain to them that because the dining halls are open from 7 o'clock in the morning until 9 o'clock at night. And students can come and go as they please. One of the things that will be important is having patience throughout the year, but especially having patience around dining. We're using restaurant guidelines for seating. Tables in the dining halls will be 6 feet apart from one another. However, there will be a normal complement of chairs at every table that is in there because roommates might want the opportunity to eat together, or friends who are used to being near one another and are comfortable with the safety factor will want to eat together. And so that is important, that there is limited seating. Our dining halls will be at half capacity. And so it'll be important that people straggle out their eating times through the day. Everybody doesn't need to be there at 7 when we open. Everyone doesn't need lunch at noon, because lunch really goes from about 11:15 until 2 o'clock with the main lunch menu. But in reality, they can come and go from the dining hall anytime that it's open and be able to get a complete meal as a part of that.
And the good thing about the changes to the class schedule, they might be even having a little bit more flexibility about eating time. So the rule of thumb is you don't eat lunch at noon if you can all avoid it, because there's so many other people doing it. I have a meal plan myself, and I always go at 11:30 or 12:30, never noon. Yeah,
So a couple of other questions that have come through have been, while I'm here during my drop-off, are there any other places like cashier's office, financial aid, parking offices, or any of those offices open?
On a limited basis, the one that is going to be open and doing pickup, in particular that might be related to students, is the One Card, and the new One Cards are going to be available if they've already uploaded their photo. So they've gotten a new app, uploaded their photo, and it's been approved, and they know that they've gotten a confirmation that their One Card's ready. Those are going to be at the new student center, and that information is in some of the emails that have been sent out. Cashier's office, if it's a weekday, will be open, but still, those are better phone calls still, and better online contacts. Financial aid is the same situation. It's always better to try to, in these current circumstances and time, to try to do that as a phone call. Parking is going to be pretty limited. When you come to campus here, you're going to see lots of signs about don't park here, do park here. We're ignoring most of those, and we're the only ones we're asking you to follow is use a legitimate parking spot. Namely, there's some white lines indicating that it's a real parking spot. Do not use the handicap spaces, don't use the coordinator spaces, don't use the facility spaces, but everything else is pretty much wide open for this process.
Do not park on College Hill Road during this time period. College Hill at the top, near Gateway in particular, near Tyler.
Looks so tempting, but it's not a parking
Very
space.
tempting to be that close to the building, but those are not legitimate parking spaces, and that creates a bottleneck and a safety problem for us tremendously. So go into a parking lot, park between two white lines, and you can park anywhere between two white lines and not have a problem.
Yeah, and on West End, the same thing. Stay out of fire lanes, do not block sidewalks. It seems really convenient, but get into a parking spot, stay there, and then move when you're ready to go.
And for those that had questions about parking permits, while the parking office won't be open, if you purchase it through Pirate Port, they're going to be mailed to you, so check that for the mail. Financial aid, I can say from my own standpoint as a parent, one of the best things we did is if you reach out to them through their, it's FAQUES, it's basically financial aid question, FAQUES at ECU.edu. You can set up an appointment to talk with and have a consultation with a financial aid advisor. They set it up pretty quickly. It's a really good process for you to get specific information, again, in a safe environment. And the cashier's office, again, I think to Aaron's point, reach out to them virtually, either email or phone call, and then you can make that decision in advance whether or not you need to actually go by and see them. So we kind of want to start to wrap this up. We're getting started. We're going to launch this thing in 2 days. For those watching the live edition this Wednesday coming up. Any final thoughts, any ideas, Aaron, you want to share, and then Bill after that before we wrap up?
First, a few things is make sure you review what to bring and what not to bring lists. The link's been sent. It's on our website as well. It's really important that we make sure that we're bringing stuff that is allowed to be brought on campus. The other part about that that's really important too is related to that. Keep checking your email, because we know that drop-off might have a few snags that first day. We might be sending some information to people on the second day saying, hey, we learned a few things on day one. Here's some updates for day two. So keep an eye on that email really quickly beforehand. If you have any questions about directions to your building, since you might not have been on campus and been there, Google it. Don't use that link that came out with the sign up, because that's just one address for everybody. So double check your directions, noting that the base of College Hill may or may not be open depending on when the construction is sort of winding through, and that there's some construction, so keep an eye out. Google's usually pretty good at winding you through construction, but it's not perfect. So those are the few things. And then also, once you get here, if it's not perfect, take it easy. You can let us know. We'll get it fixed, or we'll figure it out. And just work with us, because there is going to be a lot of things, even maybe when you arrive on campus, that are not going to be the same, and we're going to be doing it for the first time in the history of the institution and doing something completely different. Be ready to change and flow and go with the flow.
Enjoy the day. I mean, what we've tried to do with drop-off is set up an opportunity for a family to have a normal move-in experience without the crowd, which actually should make move-in a more enjoyable experience in that sense. And so enjoy the day. Bring your family. Bring grandma and grandpa if you feel safe and you want to. And look about and be curious. We're going to have one full-time staff member of the university at each one of the buildings during the drop-off periods to answer your questions and generic questions. It's not where you solve a roommate issue with that person. It's where you might say, well, when's the bookstore going to be open? Or how do I find my way to the student center from here? Or whatever other question you might have, because maybe you haven't been able to be here as often as you would have liked to since making your decision to attend the university. So we understand that this is a big event. This is one of those marker moments in students' lives. I still remember my parents taking me off to college when I was a freshman back in the early 1800s. And so we all got on the horse and we drove off to campus and found a place to park the horse safely in the shade. No, it wasn't quite that long ago, but I do. Those are moments that you remember, and we hope that you remember these moments as a family and cherish them for years to come.
And I can tell you again, personally, my son does his drop off this Friday. It's a mix of emotions in the house. You know, we're looking forward to it, but not everybody's excited to have their baby leave the house. So there's a lot of things that are going on that day. Pack some patience. It's going to be hot. And just to Bill's point, enjoy the day. It's going to be a great experience. If you want last minute information, again, to Aaron's point, make sure they keep checking their email. Keep checking that email all the way up until the time you get ready to leave the house to pull out to come to drop off. And also check the housing website. Campusliving.ecu.edu has a lot of the information, the what to bring, what not to bring, how to get a loft, all of that type of stuff is located on the website.
And it's being updated regularly.
Constantly. So I also want to mention, for those watching the live edition, you're going to see Mr. Lucier in just a minute, about 2 o'clock. He's doing another program, and I'm not sure, is Bill? No, that's just
me.
Aaron.
No.
So
Tomorrow I'll be
that-
with SGA on the town hall.
That's right. So, but with Aaron's, that one's going to be a lot more detailed specifically for students. So that may be one, even if you're watching here, you might want to have your student check in at 2 o'clock for that WebEx.
And it's on the orientation.
Off the
schedule.
orientation website. Thank you, Aaron. And that, again, we're going to try and keep pushing information out. Some of it may seem a little bit repetitive, but we just want to make sure we can answer as many questions as possible. So I'm going to stay over here to be socially distant. Go ahead, Bill. One more thought.
So on the dining front, starting this week, we are going to be sending out 2, I'm going to call them newsletters for lack of a better term, but very brief, very quick explanations on how the meal plan works, what are all the aspects of it, information about sustainability and nutrition, and how to work your way through that dining program. So make sure your student is paying attention. There should be 6 of them come out prior to your arrival, and 1 the first week of classes. And so we'll be sending those out. We're attempting to get them out Tuesdays and Thursdays for the remaining 3 weeks of the summer.
And the last thing I want to talk about is that return to campus period, which we really didn't talk a lot about because there'll be more information. But if you do the drop off, the matching thing is going to be there was return to campus days on the 7th, 8th, and 9th. And that is going to once again be that drop off where you might be driving to campus alone, you get to where you're going to be parked, your permit is going to be, and then you take the bus over to campus and you have a bag with you and stuff like that. Just be remembering that's the days, unlike move-in where they can bring a limited number of people, and drop off where you can be unlimited. That's the day that you're walking into your building without your parents. So don't be like, I got to get them to help me lift this stuff up. You're going to have to figure that out. Call your roommate to come down and grab something if you need something, but it's really going to be that lighter schedule. So just remember that as we go through things. Keep checking those emails. But also, like I said, just keep being flexible. It's going to be an interesting year, and probably the most interesting thing is you're going to go down in ECU history is one of the most interesting move-ins probably ever.
Yeah. And we're so excited to have everybody coming back to campus. We are so looking forward to it. Until then, stay safe, and we'll see you on your drop-off day.
Thank you.